Welcome back to another episode of the Bourbon Lens. This is Jake along with Scott, and happy freaking Bourbon Heritage Month. It is Christmas come early for every bourbon lover, and most bourbon people may not know this, that it is Bourbon Heritage Month, but it is Christmas here in Kentucky as Scott and I look forward to hunting, not deer, not turkeys, but whiskey. And
bottles of whiskey.
Yeah, bottles of whiskey. Gotta go hunt them down. And hanging out and going to Kentucky Bourbon Festival and a variety of different things in between. So, Scott, how's it going as we just look forward to the big month of September as we were sitting here on September 1st recording this?
I was going to say, this is like an old school type of episode. We haven't done one of these in a long time.
No, somehow we got popular and a lot of people like to talk to us, which I'm not mad about, but it is good just to kind of kick back and relax and not have to be so on. I still feel like when we have guests, I don't know about you, that I have to like be on a little bit, even though we try to like have a, pretty open dialogue, like a conversation. It's still, you got to be on because you don't want to mess up brands.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot going on, you know what you want to get into the episode, but you got to figure out how to weave that in. Mm-hmm. And I think that's just something that takes a lot of attention.
It does. And like the art of podcasting is really difficult. And like, I feel like you have to be a really intent listener. Sometimes like, I don't know if you get this question but like I get it from people. They're like, oh, you do podcasts. Like what's this magical thing? And I'm like, trial and error. Like, and to be a host and to be a color commentator, like you have to be able to listen, take what they said, and then turn it into an interwoven conversation that makes sense for the listeners. And that's difficult.
Yeah. Cause we always say like, we hate to have written questions.
Oh, the worst.
So it's like, yeah, you gotta kind of be on your toes because the conversation could take a total left turn. And there's been a lot of those.
Yeah.
Total left turn. And then you got to bring it back somehow to the brand, to the whiskey,
Oh yeah. Between me and Michael as host over the last almost 200 episodes, you have to follow a lot of squirrels chasing some nuts down the road, but it is almost leaf changing season too. It's been a lot cooler in the mornings, which has been nice. And now we have fall maybe approaching quickly, which I'm not mad about because it's been muggy and nasty.
Yeah. I think summer's still trying to hold on because it was hot this week. And, Liam's got a ton of sports this week. 2 cross-country meets, soccer, cross-country practice. We got him running all over the place. And
I still want to challenge him to a race.
So he's running right at an 8-minute mile. At 7 years old.
Give me a week. Give me a week, and I could run an 8-minute mile.
Man, it's
the only difference is that he's like 60 pounds.
I don't even know if he weighs 60 pounds.
And I come in at a whopping 228. So he does have the advantage there, but I know how to chase down little people. That's a football thing in me, but I've not run a mile in a while, but like, I'm super impressed. You sent me his times when I was down there. I was like, when I was on vacation, I was like, damn, like little quick shit.
Yeah. So he had a half mile run last night. And ran that in 3:23. So, I mean, his pace last night was just insane.
Yeah. I remember when I was little in like high school. That's what I'm going to say little because like that's when I was like an actual little human.
Before you hit your growth spurt.
Before I hit my weight spurt.
There you go.
I ran a 5:15 and I was cooking. And I'll never forget this kid who like ran track, but also attempted to play football just out of nowhere. Like I'm like humming, like I'm running people down that are like so much faster than me. And he ends up being all state in track and runs like a 4:50. Now I like throw up everywhere after I get done running. Cause like, I don't know what got into me. He's just like, hey guys, how's it going? Like having a normal conversation. I'm like, well, this is some bullshit.
Like he could go do it again.
Yeah. He was like, this is nothing. I'm like, okay, here we go. This is awesome. Yeah. So running miles is not for the faint of heart at all. So kudos to him, especially in heat. And,
yeah,
I don't envy him one bit.
He's got so much energy that, I mean, he never slows down. Like the only time he slows down is when his head hits the pillow and he's done.
Good for him.
But yeah, it's cross country is an interesting one too, because it's kind of like soccer. Well, I guess it's kind of like football too, but you start when it's super hot.
Yep.
And you finish the season and it could be snowing.
Yep.
So yeah, it was, I think his last run last fall was like in the low 40s, and it was like spitting like sleet.
Yeah, they'll run in anything in cross country. They're kind of stupid. In football, you at least have pads on.
Yeah, it's an all-weather sport, that's for sure, until the lightning comes out, and then they panic. So
yeah, but I did say it's like Christmas in Kentucky for bourbon fans, but it is also Christmas in Kentucky to people like myself, because we have college football upon us this weekend for Labor Day, and we have the NFL starting in the following week. Not getting into sports at all on this really, but just to say that I know what my plans are for most Saturdays from here on out. And that is super exciting.
Yeah. Make sure you get all your household chores done every other day of the week, right?
Yeah. So I've built up a little bit of love around here. I painted our bedroom, which was an undertaking.
It buys you what, like a month of football?
It buys me like a week, because we also decided that we're getting a new puppy, because Jameson is destroying our little puppy. And like, I feel like our little dog is like the only thing you can tolerate, because like she just like will jump in your lap. She'll be like, oh, Scott petted me for 2 seconds, and then she'll run away, and or she'll like lay at our feet.
Yeah.
We're getting a big dog. So we'll see how this goes at Casa de Llewellyn here. We got a sheepadoodle.
A sheepadoodle.
Sheepdog. Old English sheepdog mixed with a poodle to get a sheepadoodle.
Oh wow.
A sheepadoodle. So
I've never heard of that, but that is wow.
Yes.
That'll be a big dog though.
Yeah, up to 90 pounds.
Damn.
Yeah.
Probably like what, 4 foot tall, like on its hind legs?
Probably taller than that, because I saw an actual old English sheepdog when I was in Charleston, and oh boy. Yeah, we're in for a treat. Going to be doing some exercise myself. Walking the dog.
You have to keep that dog active for sure.
Luckily, we got a fenced-in backyard. Let that guy run around. We're down between names, and as of right now, Lauren has gone with Doc, and Jameson. I've just decided with him, because guys stick together, right? That he wants to name him Jack, and I've decided that his middle name is Daniels, so he's Jack Daniels Llewellyn, because he's black and white. And just to tease a podcast coming up, we have a really great podcast with Jack Daniels historian coming up October 3rd. And boy, it was a fun one. We could have gone for hours. We went 45 minutes, and it may be one of my top 5 podcasts that we've ever recorded.
Yeah. For 2 Kentucky guys to chat with some Tennessee whiskey, that podcast, I think, turned out incredible. So a lot of fun there.
You know what they call that in the biz, Scott? A tease.
Ooh.
Yeah. So, we're getting okay at this, thing. We're almost 200 episodes. So be on the lookout for that, because episode 200's in November. So I might be smiling and dialing and trying to get some big time guests or something. I don't know. We're going to blow this out.
Yeah. We got to get some creative going.
Yeah. If you got any ideas, let us know. Scott and I are a lot of things. Creative, not that.
Not always.
No.
By the end of the day, my brain is generally drained. So
yeah,
all those creative juices.
Well, that's the thing. Like sometimes, like you ever watch like TV or read an article, like we watch Shark Tank, and they're like, oh man, like I could invent that. Like that was duh. Like, of course,
I did not think of that.
Yeah, of course everybody needed that. And then I'm like, man, do I really want to do that? And I'm like, I'm getting paid. I got a 401k. I can do the things I want to do. My family can do the things. Do I really want to do something else on top of that? Like I got a pile of wood in the back from a tree falling, and Lauren and I were like, oh man, we're going to sand it down and make cutting boards out of it and sell them. Guess where that pile of wood still is? On the pile.
It's still seasoning.
Yeah. Uh-huh. Uh-huh. That's one of those things. Like it's always good intentions until you're like, do I really want to do it?
Yeah. We don't want to ask my wife what I've been putting off for forever, because it's a lot of things, but yeah.
Yeah. I did say that the painting would keep me, safe for a little while, But I did one part of my project outside. Like we had some sod that like messed up, and I like raked it all out, cleaned it up, put the film down, put the stakes in. And I'm like, hey, pick out the rock, pick out the rock, pick out the rock, pick out the rock. And then it's my fault because I didn't remind her to pick out the rock.
Everything's our fault.
Yeah.
We just remember that.
And I'm not saying that my wife doesn't do like 50% or maybe even 51% around the house. Like, cause women do a lot of things that we don't really credit them for in the chart of percentages. So like, let's be honest with this. I'm not saying that my wife doesn't do anything, cause she does amazing. And like, she does helps the kid most of the time. Like
a lot of it goes unrecognized, and we got to admit that.
Oh, 1,000%. And so I still haven't lived down. Like on the first podcast episode, I said that I do most of the grocery shopping, and my wife, like Lauren, still holds that over my head. And so
I used to grocery shop. I do 90% of the cooking. So I used to do the grocery shopping until COVID hit. And then I was like, screw this, not going to the grocery anymore.
Yeah. Lauren signed us up for Instacart when all that happened. We get our groceries delivered, and I have a bone to pick with them most of the time, because they like if I want deli meat, I want it like from the cage, and I want it thin, and they don't like ever go to the cage and like get it sliced the way I want it to. Or
you got to be willing to be flexible when you do grocery ordering services, deliveries. Yeah.
Like I'm like super particular about produce. Like I'll touch like 6 or 7 things before like I pick out the apple I want. Like I'm just not just like throwing them all in the bag. So
yeah, that's
convenience comes at a cost.
Why did they give me this one? Yeah. Why did they give me these green bananas? I wanted bananas that were ready to eat.
Yeah. Why does the avocado, when I touch it already, smushy?
It's like, cause you were supposed to make guacamole with that 2 days ago.
Yeah, exactly. So, you know, it's really interesting how our world evolves, right? Like, and how I feel like me and you both have become more homebodies, like working at home, not traveling nearly as much, because I know our jobs used to take us places. You know, kids are getting older during all this time, and you just, you know, the things that were important, or like wanting to dream to do bigger things, just become less important because your family grows older and you want to spend time with them versus doing other things.
You wake up and realize it's already September, and
no kidding.
Like, holy shit, what happened to the rest of the year?
Yeah. And then they're like, you know, us good Christian folks over here, you know, we got to get ready for Christmas.
Christmas in Kentucky.
Yeah. And we got to figure out how to like bribe our wives to be able to go to Kentucky Bourbon Festival and Bourbon Beyond and like all these other things. Cause you're like, oh, well, you know, the Bourbon Lens is kind of a business. No, they're like, no, it's not.
Hey,
I'm like, this is an LLC. You calm yourself. I always tell her that, and she's like, does it buy me gas? And I'm like, no. She's like,
maybe one day.
Hey, maybe. If you all are ever interested in sponsoring the Bourbon Lens, you know, you just let us know. The bourbonlens@gmail.com. We'll be happy to listen to any offers that you may have, if it can replace our dream jobs. Not really. But anywho, we've just took 15 minutes talking about this, that, and the other. The most important thing is it's Bourbon Heritage Month. And one of our favorite times of the year. We've been lucky enough over the last couple years to really dive in and be a part of Bourbon Heritage Month, whether it's finding bottles or going and being a part of Kentucky Bourbon Festival. Like, what are some of the most memorable things that you remember, you know, since the podcast started? Because this is year 4 for us, right? Like, we started in September 4 years ago. And, you know, it's evolved quite a bit over time. Like, what's been your favorite memories of September so far during that time?
I mean, it is crazy because when we started the podcast, we didn't even realize it was Bourbon Heritage Month. You know, so we started the podcast and it was like right at the perfect time, right? So 4 years ago.
Yeah.
I mean, I think tops was the Bourbon Festival. Like, last year was incredible. Obviously, there was no Bourbon Festival the year before, so we didn't really get any exposure to that until last year, which, you know, super happy that we can get to, you know, we get to go back this year. And I just think it's like when you're from Kentucky and it's Bourbon Heritage Month, it's just like it reinforces like how important a whiskey is to your state.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like how much you just can drive around in Louisville and outside of Kentucky, and you just see rickhouses all over the place.
Yeah.
You know, back 20 years ago, nobody really even thought about that. Rickhouses were kind of hidden and, you know, put to the side. Distilleries were hidden. Nobody wanted to go to a distillery tour. Now everybody wants to see all the stills and everything. So,
Yeah.
I don't know, it just reinforces like how important our number one industry is.
Yeah. I mean, I couldn't agree more. I think one of my favorite things we've done in September, all kind of coincided at the same time. We got to go to Four Roses and meet Brent Elliott, and we recorded a podcast with Marcus, who's now at Michter's. And that same week, I ended up getting a Four Roses limited edition, 2019. So that was early on in the podcast. Like, I loved opening up that and being a part of that and getting to meet Brent and having him sign the bottle. That one was really cool. But I also think Kentucky Bourbon Festival, has created some friendships. I think about meeting like Caleb Bordeaux, someone who came up to us and like, he was like, I'm a fan. And I'm like, that's pretty cool, right? Like to have someone do that. Or like you and Michael had a sit down dinner with Michael Hudlow, and Hudlow is now like one of our most engaged Patreon members. And like some of those things are really cool. Or like talking to Dan and Andrea from Michter's, and then, 6-7 months later, like having a podcast with them and like sitting down, but they literally rolled out the red carpet for us. Like it was an amazing experience. So those are the things that I will always treasure. Like no matter how long the Bourbon Lens goes, like I'll treasure those moments, because that's when, you get to meet people and you get to engage with people. And those are stories you can tell for the rest of your life.
Yeah. And you like plant that seed, and like Hudlow, right? He'd never listened to our podcast and run into him at a restaurant. What are you guys doing here? And it's, hey, we're here with a podcast. He's like, what's your podcast? And immediately took interest.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's just so cool that, the Bourbon Festival allows those opportunities. We're unfortunately 2 years of a pandemic has restricted a lot of people to like Zoom calls and virtual hangouts and social media and stuff like that. But these festivals like Bourbon and Beyond, they bring everybody back together. And I think that's probably the highlight.
Yeah. Speaking of KBF and Bourbon and Beyond, both going on at the same exact time. Both really cool opportunities. I know me and you are looking forward to going to Kentucky Bourbon Festival. There may be a possibility we go to Bourbon Beyond as well. I tell you what, I'm really looking forward to those times. I think it'd be really cool. The acts are great at Bourbon and Beyond this year. You got Alanis Morissette, you got Chris Stapleton, you have Need to Breathe. Some of my like sometimes you got to scour down to find the folks that you like. I forget who the headliner is on Saturday, but I know they have a good headliner then. And, the team that puts together Bourbon Beyond, like Fred Minnick's a part of that, and some other folks are like, it's really good. They put a lot of curated content together around the bourbon side of it. Even though it is a music festival, they do a good job bringing bourbon into the music festival as much as they can with that type of audience.
Yeah. Yeah, no, they definitely, they've got like guest speakers and panels and things like that Louisville Bourbon Buzz, he's going to be on a panel. I'm very interested to hear what the panel is going to be about, but it seems like it's probably going to be about social media, a little bit of influencing and content creation, which we all are very interested in, because we're all Instagram, TikTok has gotten big with I kind of was like bourbon and TikTok, there's a bunch of 16-year-olds on there. That doesn't make sense to me, but it's exploded there too. So I don't know.
Yeah. It's all interesting. I think influencing means different things to different people. Right. And I think sometimes that word bourbon influencer gets thrown around, and sometimes it has a negative connotation. I feel like you can influence a variety of different ways. And I think that's what's really interesting about it. You have some people like Tyler in Louisville Bourbon Buzz, like, who is an excellent photographer. Then you take, someone like the Basement Rick House or the Blind the Blind Pig Basement, like Speakeasy, like that are really good content on TikTok. And then you have people like Dad's Drinking Bourbon or Fred or Bourbon Pursuit or Whiskey Cast that are doing amazing things in podcasting. And then you go even a step further, then you have YouTube, you have It's Bourbon Night and all the other people on YouTube. I'm drawing a blank. ADHD Whiskey and
Mash and Drum.
Mash and Drum. Like you have all those. Yeah, you have all those folks. And then go even further, like you have the written content folks like Whiskey Consensus or Whiskey Raiders or whatever. And then you go even a level deeper. Like then you have people influencing like at an extremely high level, like our bourbon. Like there's levels to influencing that people don't understand, like when you scratch the surface of it. And so I think that would be really interesting if that's the panel, because content creation can be so many things depending on the audience you're trying to reach.
Yeah. There's a lot of different formats and to, just see how the different ones evolved.
Mm-hmm.
But we're all trying to have the same message, right?
Yeah.
Whiskey is for everybody. Just go out and drink whiskey.
Yeah.
Don't drink everything else. It's like, and then tell people about it.
Don't drink vodka, right?
Even if you have like 100 followers, tell people about what you're drinking, why you like it.
Yeah. I mean, I couldn't agree more. I mean, that's why I've like picked up, writing like basic reviews. I'm not going to tell you to buy it. I'm not going to rate it. I'm going to tell you what I tasted and what I smelled. And like give you a little blurb about it. There's a gazillion people that'll tell you their rating on a bourbon. And guess what? None of those ratings make any sense to me whatsoever because they're all subjective.
Yeah, because I don't know how many reviews I've read and I'm like, okay, I got these tasting notes, I can see where they got that. You get to the ranking and you're like
97.
You ranked it like an impossibly high number and it was a good bourbon. Or something that I really like, and it's like rated 2.5 out of 5. Like I'm like 50%. I'm like that doesn't sound very good, but it's like the rating systems are very difficult. Yeah,
I think that's the most interesting thing. So it's fun. I think it's really uniquely evolving, and a lot of reviews and a lot of content creation will happen this month because of all the crazy whiskey releases that happen. You have all the big name releases like Birthday Bourbon and Four Roses Limited Edition and things like that coming up. So, one of the things that we decided that, hey, this should be part of our Bourbon Heritage Month podcast, are a couple bourbons that you should be out there hunting if available that come up with a rendition every year. So Scott, I'm going to turn it over to you first. What's that first bourbon that people in your estimation should be hunting here in 2022?
Yeah, I think that every September, Elijah Craig comes out with a new batch of their barrel proof. Lately, it's been kind of hard to find. Maybe you can find an older batch, but C922 comes out in September, and it's guaranteed to be high proof. It's guaranteed to be pretty damn oaky, 12 years old. It packs a punch. It's always a perfect fall to winter whiskey. So it's like as the weather turns cold, the proof typically goes up for me. And I think that if you can find that, it's like $80. Sometimes it'd probably be a little bit more, $80, $90. But what I was thinking about, if you can't find it in your area, there's been some single barrels that have been leaking out of the barrel proof. They're like 8 to 10 years old. So even if you could find something like that, that might be worth picking up in the fall.
Yeah. I mean, I think those ECBPs, to give the acronym, if you're looking out around, is always a great whiskey. I prefer the Bs, but Cs normally are the ones that pack the heat, and a lot of people find to be critically acclaimed. For me, speaking of another iconic distillery, Maker's Mark, which has a lot of news around it, as their master distiller and their master blender both left on the precipice of Bourbon Heritage Month, like talking about crazy, and two big name people, but this will be like one of their last, kind of hurrahs that will release into the market. And that's Maker's Mark, BRT -01 wood finishing series. Been a real big fan of the wood finishing series. Like overall, I think it just brings another way to give a little bit of flavor to that iconic wheated mash bill, and just shows like, hey, blending's a thing and the stave finishes is a thing. So looking forward to that one. I think it's just continues to bring some innovation to their whiskey that's out there. And so the stave details, 10 virgin toasted American oak staves. That's what they're going for at 110.6 proof. So comes in right around where those wood finishing series have typically come in at. So looking forward to that one.
So it's all toasted.
All toasted.
Oh man, that's going to be like marshmallows.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, that's going to be,
yeah,
that'll be definitely one to pick up because the wood finishing series, typically they're a variety of woods, but all toasted. That's toasted is not going anywhere. That's for sure. There's a lot of like Independent Stave is doing a lot of testing on toasted barrels versus heavily charred barrels, and the science behind it is just crazy. So toasted barrels are not going anywhere. So if you have not explored toasted, it might be worth finding one to pick up.
Well, and another one, just like to kind of piggyback off that, is that Daviess County Lightly Toasted that's coming out as well for September, which is a Lux Row brand. So there's another lightly toasted bourbon that's right on its heels. And then Michter's Toasted also comes out in September. So toast, and more toast for your tasting pleasure.
What's that meme? Yeah, toast.
Yeah, toast. Toast Tuesday, baby.
Toast.
And this podcast will release on a Tuesday, not a Monday because of Labor Day. So perfect.
Today is Toasty Tuesday.
Yeah, that's what the podcast should now be named, is Yeah Toast. People be like, what?
Golly.
Yeah, pour another, Scott. I'll have another.
This is not toasted, but it is the 2020, the pandemic edition of the Maker's Mark Community Batch. Speaking of wood finishing, this one's stave profile was, it's all over the place, but it was made based upon all the private selects for a certain subset of restaurants and bars. And then they blended all those back. Jane Bowie, she's the one that helped do that with Chef Edward Lee. So, hey, that's one reason why I grabbed that tonight, as the Maker's Mark news was kind of impactful this week.
100%. And now, as I don't really have a great way to transition this, I'm just going to kick it back to you for your bourbon number 2.
And this might be a sleeper, and maybe people are catching on, but in years past, when this releases, it sits on shelves. And I'm not sure why, because every time I've ever had it, it's incredible. Remus Repeal Reserve Series 6 just dropped. And it's got some, I think it's like got some 14-year-old bourbons in it. And, but yeah, the premise of that is they get some stock of some older stuff and then some like 10 and 8 year of either their high rye or their middle of the road rye, which is 21% rye, which is still high. And they blend it, and it's MGP like exemplified. Mm-hmm. Like that's what it is. Every year it's just good. And it's like $90.
Yeah. I mean, rule of thumb, if it can be $10 a year, or younger, or shorter than that, it's a great value buy. And Remus Repeal is a great value buy. I recently found batch 1 sitting on a shelf for $89.99. I'm like, yeah, of course.
Insta buy.
Yeah, like duh. And I don't really traditionally buy whiskey anymore. Not because like I don't want to. It's just sometimes we get too many samples.
You can never drink enough to deplete. I went to my neighbor's the other day with 3 bottles. And I was like, yeah, let's try these and drink this. And I was like, all right, see you later. And he's like, wait, you forgot your bottles. And I was like, I know, just leave them. I don't want them.
I'll not come back for them.
Yeah. I was like, if you need to pour me something later, I'll come back for it. But I was like, you just keep it. You just put it on your, because generally what happens is you pour something they've never tried or something that's just off the wall different. They like it. And you're just like, well, hell,
keep it.
I've already tried it. enough. You keep it.
Mm-hmm.
Pour it for somebody else.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the nice thing.
Yeah. No, I'm totally there with you. So, from a blending experience, that you were talking about, like I'm going to go pick on another Kentucky distillery. Bardstown Bourbon Company's Discovery 9 comes out. And so that's their higher proof, their higher end. They do have some really cool stuff. The Fricolin's out. The Chateau Labaud 2 is out. But Disco 9 is really interesting to me because it's just the complex parts. Danny and Nick and team spend a lot of time building these complex flavors out into inexpensive. It's a premium whiskey. Don't get me wrong on that, but I think it's a really great opportunity just to see how Bardstown continues to grow and develop as they get ready to launch their products in 2023. These Discovery series and the Fusion series are a great way, but Disco 9 comes out and super excited. Again, just what they call in the biz. We're headed down to Bardstown tomorrow to actually meet with Bardstown Bourbon Company for a podcast featured in Bourbon Heritage Month.
You're getting really damn good at this, the foreshadowing stuff.
Hey, I listen to enough radio, like sports talk radios, like my guilty pleasure in the mornings when I'm dropping the kid off at school, and they tease the segments. I'm just teasing the podcast.
Yeah, you got to get the kid into school so you can get back and listen to the second segment.
Oh yeah, I'm all about it. But like ESPN's commercials are like 18 minutes long, so it's like
you got plenty of time.
if I don't do it correctly, then I could be on a commercial the entire ride there, and I could be on a commercial the entire ride home.
Whew. That's a bad way to start a Monday.
It's a bad way to finish a week too on a Friday.
Good choice.
Yeah.
No, I'm excited about the Bardstown because it's been a while since we've talked to them.
I mean, it's been a while. Like we sat down with Sam and Brandon last year to tease out World's Top Whiskey Taster, which they're not doing this year. Recently, we sat down with Sam Montgomery for the Off Hours with Bourbon Lens 2 weeks ago. So go check out episode 10 of Off Hours with Bourbon Lens. But with Sam Montgomery, National Brand Ambassador. But we haven't talked to them about distillation or product experience in a long while, since you and Michael hung out with Danny.
Yeah, sat down at his place and talked through Fusion and Discovery. That was back when it was batch 1.
Yeah.
It was very early on in Bardstown's releases, but yeah, I'm excited to get back there. It'd be a lot of fun.
Yeah, definitely. So rounding out, what's number 3 for you, Scotty?
All right. So what they call, what'd you say? Foreshadowing?
Foreshadowing,
teasing. So teasing, I think you got to seek out a couple single barrels because there's going to be a lot of single barrel releases with Bourbon and Beyond.
Kentucky Bourbon
Festival. If you're making it to that, tons of single barrels. But Bourbon Lens is getting back into the single barrels, and
after hiatus, we did it on purpose.
Yeah, and we've got a single barrel coming out, and it'll be coming out probably right after this episode releases. But it's an Off Hours Bourbon Lens pick. If you haven't heard about Off Hours, they're kind of a lifestyle brand. They are sourcing MGP, and we picked a, what was it, 5.5 year?
Yeah, 5.5, almost 6 year barrel, and it's killer.
Yeah, so if you want to get in on that, it's going to be very limited, less than 100 bottles, probably less than 90 bottles by the time we buy ours, because I'm definitely going to be putting some away because it's damn good whiskey.
Yeah.
And like I said earlier, hey, I'm talking about MGP twice, so it's definitely worth checking out. But we'll have it. We'll have all the links and in show notes and newsletter, all that. So definitely keep an eye out.
Well, what's really cool about it is it commemorates the end of our mini series that we had with Off Hours with Bourbon Lens, where we told the behind the scenes stories of people in whiskey, and we're super excited to do that. So this is number 1 run with them. Just want to thank Jake Ireland, just straight off the bat, just for partnering with us to do those and being the sponsor of those episodes. It's been really cool. The response we've gotten has been great. Like, people really are craving for that kind of content. Like, what are whiskey people doing behind the scenes, and how are they, enjoying the moments in between? So really cool. And
I definitely enjoy listening to those because, I edit them, but I go back and listen to them when they're complete, and I've enjoyed all of them because they all get little nuggets of, kind of makes you think.
Yeah. Well,
A lot of what we do, we talk about whiskeys, and people are like, I got to go spend more money and, try to find these things and go hunt. And, that's part of it. But a lot of what we like to do too is just slow down and try to enjoy what we're doing.
Yeah. At the end of the day, like whiskey is about sharing the pour, right? Like that's what, we've always been about. We want to have a conversation like we were if we were at a bar with these folks. And I feel like these off hours episodes have allowed us, allowed me as the kind of interviewer to learn about these people, some of who we call friends, and a lot of them, actually every one of them who we call friends, just learn about them and how they want to, do life outside of whiskey, because you know what, they have a life. So it's been really cool. Excited about that. It's going to be available on sharedpour.com. Just as one last mention on that single barrel. So as we move on, closing out, last bourbon, it was the bourbon I poured. We could have talked about a variety of raffles. You have the Pappy collection and Buffalo Trace Antique collection coming out in October. You have the big raffle that a lot of people are always fangirling about, which is the release of Birthday Bourbon. Mm-hmm. But we'll talk about one of my favorite whiskeys over the last 3 years. Been lucky enough to secure a bottle of the 2019, 2020, and 2021. That's Four Roses limited edition. 2022 will come out. They do a raffle. They do 14,000 bottles in the state of Kentucky, which is, you got a good chance, right? So super excited about the opportunity. I entered. Let's see if we get lucky, right? Because it affords us an opportunity to pour some whiskeys. And as Scott knows, if I get a big whiskey, I'm not afraid to open it because I want to drink it.
Yeah.
So
the cellophane only lasts so long.
Yeah. Yeah. So, that's something I'm looking forward to. I like the idea of the raffles. It gives everyone a fair chance. You get it at cost or at retail. I do like that they've done the raffles. But one thing I do miss about Bourbon Heritage Month is the lines, like lining up at Liquor Barn, hanging out for a few hours, those types of things. Like those are things I do miss, but I understand the COVID and all that stuff as we come out of it. But I really look forward to, more releases and things like that through the coming years. And hopefully we can get back to some in-person things, because those are a lot of fun, just getting to be around people for 5-6 hours that all have a common bond of drinking whiskey.
Yeah. The sad part is those few hours of waiting in line have turned into a few days of waiting in line. Yeah. And you're waiting in line with people that don't care about bourbon.
Yeah.
So, I think the raffle's probably the way to go.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, I agree with that. It's just, you reminisce on the times like when you pop up your folding chair and you sit out at 4 a.m. With a couple friends and drinking hot chocolate because it's kind of cold at the back end of September sometimes. And
yeah, especially overnight.
Yeah. So look forward to hopefully getting lucky. I did sign up for the two big ones. So we'll see what happens.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah. I've never had a birthday bourbon, so it'd be kind of cool to win that one.
I don't think I've ever even tasted birthday bourbon.
Me either, brother.
Yeah. Maybe this is our year.
Hey.
Maybe this is my year.
It could be your year. If it's my year, it could be your year. We'll punt people out of the way just to do.
We've doubled our odds,
and we'll punt people out of the way if on the podcast list if we get a birthday bourbon. We'll just do a exclusive podcast on birthday bourbon
for sure.
Well, it's always great to catch up and chat. We're super excited about Bourbon Heritage Month. We just gave you 6 great bourbons that you could really hunt down. 5 of them are going to be pretty available. Number 6. May the odds be ever in your favor. But, we'll continue to move forward with, the luck of the draw as we get them. And we really appreciate you listening to this episode of the Bourbon Lens. Happy Bourbon Heritage Month to you. As you do listen to this, go to your favorite podcast listening app that you're on. Make sure you're hitting the subscribe button. Hit the 5-star review. Leave us a comment. We greatly appreciate it. If you want to know more about Bourbon Lens, go over to our Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, @Bourbon Lens. We do have a TikTok, not super active there, but you can follow us there. Lastly, if you are interested in exclusive opportunities, go over to patreon.com/Bourbon Lens. Exclusive content, exclusive opportunities to join our tasting club, things like that. And just as a PS, go check out bourbonlens.com. it's a great place to find more information. We're posting articles, we're posting reviews. We'd love to post content. So excited about the content that we're bringing there to bourbonlens.com. So thank you for listening to this episode. Until next time, cheers.
Cheers.